This is Coogan Cassius for iFall TV in association with MTK Global. I just want to point something out before we start. So me and Ben already recorded an interview earlier on, and for some reason it froze halfway through. So we're actually having to redo it again. Just trying to put out what kind of guy you are, Ben, because you could have gone, nah, back off, mate. But you didn't. You went, do you want to do it again? And I went, yeah. And you went, go on in.
Well, in all honesty, I could sit here and lie and say, it's the type of fella I am, but it's not what I'm doing much else, is it?
You haven't got anything else to do. No, but to be fair,
I'm out, mate. I can't.
To be fair, though, Ben, you could have turned around and just said, no. Do you know what? No. I had the audio, but I didn't have the visual, so here we go anyway. Ben, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. You?
Yeah, surviving, like most people are, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose not that really it's of massive interest to hear what people are doing in isolation, but as we are talking to you, I would kind of like to know what you do day to day, having leading rather an active lifestyle as it is on the road, here, there and everywhere, with your training, but being homebound. What does Ben Davison do?
Just working on being the best that I can be as a coach, studying fights, scan over things from training, going over things from previous fights, potential opponents, and just making sure that every area is covered, basically.
Ever since I've known you, every time I ring you, because sometimes we do talk on the phone quite late at night, and well, we do. You're always up, and I'm always up, so we do talk quite late at night. And I would say 90% of the time when I ring you, you are watching and studying a fight, and it's always for a reason. It's not just because it's your hobby. It's like you're watching it for a reason. I have noticed that over the last few years.
Yeah, well, I sort of look at it like this, so most people will have a 9-to-5 office job, yeah?
Mm.
So, but they may have to get up at 6, start to commute at 7, finish at 5. By the time they get home, it's 7. So effectively, it sort of becomes a 7 till 7 or, those sorts of hours. So why then, in my job, should I be happy to just accept that we're going to do a couple of hours in the gym and that'll be it? My job's done. I just don't work like that. When you're working with elite fighters, you've got to make sure that every area is covered, and that's what I try to do, to the best of my ability. And I'm always trying to better myself, which means if I'm better, the fighters should be able to benefit from that. And yeah, that's sort of how I see it. Put in the hours, put in the work. Lazy people don't get nowhere, as they say.
But you're also one of these trainers that doesn't think that kind of you know everything. As much as you do know, you don't know everything, and you always kind of feel that you can learn something from every situation every day, and that's quite testament in kind of the work you've done already with fighters. Yeah,
but the moment a coach gets to that point where he thinks he knows everything, he's never going to improve and get any better. So he's hit his ceiling, he's found his ceiling, that's as good as you're going to be. Once you relay the information that you've got to a fighter, that's it. They can't gain anything more from you. And a fighter, once he gets to the point that he feels like he knows it all, he's never going to better himself. He's reached his ceiling. His knowledge is what his knowledge is. Yeah, okay, he may develop in areas like strength and conditioning, or this area or that area, or etc., etc. But in terms of unless he thinks that that's it, I'm doing everything I need to do, like I'm the best and I don't need to get any better. He's reached his limit. And, I'm not that type of person. I want to strive to be better. We can always learn. All of us can keep learning, and all of us can keep improving. You'll never ever master the sport of boxing, in terms of know everything. So, yeah, of course, always learning.
Especially for you. I mean, you've just turned 19 and you've only been in the game 5 minutes. So,
you know what I mean? So,
good luck for you.
Listen, doing all right.
Let's talk about your fighters. Let's start with Josh Taylor. Originally was scheduled to fight May the 2nd in Glasgow. Obviously, that's not happening anymore. But, yeah, as I said to you earlier on, that it's an obvious question, but we haven't heard kind of any potential date when that could be rescheduled to. And even if it does, it's not a guarantee that that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bittersweet one with Josh, because there was going to be a clash in the dates anyway, which wasn't ideal. That was driving me mad, to be honest with you. Especially being the first camp together. But Josh was he understood that this is something that nobody's done something wrong. It's just unfortunately, something that's happened in the world, and you can't do nothing about it. So he was very much like, it is what it is, sort of thing, that sort of outlook. But we got some brilliant weeks in, got some good training in. Started to, more and more, and the more time you get to spend with a fight, the more things you're going to learn about them, in the ring, outside the ring, in the conditioning area of things, in their way of life, how they think, and I do think that those things do benefit you as a coach when you understand your fighter to that level. So the more time we get to spend with Josh, obviously, the better.
Obviously, Dubois Joyce was meant to obviously take place this weekend. The revised date for that will be in July. But have you had any indication from, MTK, Top Rank, or Frank Warren when the potential Josh Taylor fight could take place?
No, not at the minute. Not at the minute, as you say. I just think that nobody knows at the minute. Sorry, I don't think nobody knows at the minute what the situation is when boxing will be back, and it's just, if there was to be a date put on it, it would sort of be just a guessing game.
That's understandable. Let's move on to Billy Joe Saunders.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit of old news now, but I will ask you about it because obviously I haven't spoken to you about it. But what was your kind of initial reaction to his situation regarding the video and the suspension, etc.?
In regards to the video, put the video up. It was a joke that was in bad taste. He recognised that. He took it down pretty quickly. But with our social media works this day and age, it spread like wildfire. He knew. He put the statement out to say it was wrong. He said that he's willing to do things to try and put the wrongs right. The board suspended him. I understand they suspended him until they have a hearing. But like as Billy Joe put in the statement, an actual suspension for Billy Joe not to be able to box, who does that benefit? Nobody at all, right? Do domestic violence sufferers, potential sufferers or ex-sufferers benefit from that? No, of course they don't. But as Billy Joe said, for him to donate some of his next purse to domestic violence charities, do they benefit from that? Yes.
Yeah.
For him to say that he'll put on some workshops to teach him self-defense to former sufferers, current sufferers or potential sufferers of domestic violence, that's going to help people in that situation. And that's the sort of thing that I know the board need to be seen to be doing something. And that's the sort of thing that I don't know if the board did have a part in him doing that. I don't know. But that, that's I think that it's been dealt with the right way. Because then people will benefit from that. So it's one of them, isn't it? He knows himself, and he's doing the right thing about it. So, yeah.
Just moving on to kind of obviously May 2nd for you, as you spoke about it earlier on, kind of that bittersweet thing about Josh Taylor. But Billy Joe was obviously set to land the Canelo fight, and is it up in the air at the moment whether that fight will take place this year or even at all? Because obviously, I know you were on Eddie Hearn's Instagram kind of asking the situation regarding Golovkin's mandatory. And if he is to take his mandatory Golovkin, then that kind of puts Billy Joe in a slightly better position to keep this Canelo fight, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously, Billy Joe's willing to fight. It's up to Canelo. I don't see why he would go and change opponent just out of the blue, because it's not like Billy Joe pulled out of an injury, or Canelo's available but now Billy Joe's not available, or whatever. It's everybody's in the same boat. Billy Joe's ready to box as soon as Canelo's ready to box. I understand about the Triple G thing, but as I said, I don't know what the situation is with the IBF mandatory for Golovkin, because the IBF are pretty strict with their mandatories. What weight would that be at as well? I don't know. What would it be for? I don't know.
From what Eddie Hearn was saying the other day, he said that Canelo and Golovkin still want to have a fight apiece, that being Billy Joe and Golovkin's mandatory, before they fight each other. So if that's the case, then everything will be all right in that respect. But it's just if, they're only going to have one fight this year and they just think, fuck it, and they'll fight each other, that's obviously where the issue will come, and possibly a missed chance there for Billy Joe.
Potentially, but what's for you won't go by you. And then there's May, we'll see. But at the minute, we don't know, no.
I just want to read you some comments, and I just wanted you to kind of let me know what you think about this. Tyson Fury was talking to Talk Sport yesterday, I believe, and he made these comments. So just, tell me what you think of this. He said, I was quite disappointed in the challenge Wilder brought. I said it would be one of my easiest fights. Hopefully there's a couple of fighters out there that when I do go into camp and I do serious training, they will be worthy of the challenge. How do you kind of read into that?
There's always three sides to it, isn't there? To what happened in there. I think that some will say Tyson's adaptions affected Wilder's performance, didn't allow him to perform. Wilder people will say, for whatever reason, Wilder wasn't able to perform. And then there'll be people in the middle that say it was a bit of both, I think with what Tyson's saying there, I just think that I think Tyson feels that the challenge that he brought, it was going to be one of my easiest fights. I think that Tyson feels that what sort of happened in the first fight, the 12th round, it sort of, for me, what sort of happened was in the first round, Wilder hit Tyson with a shot and Tyson went straight back at him. It sort of very quickly become round 13 for Wilder. And I think that, that's probably where Tyson's getting at with that, where, there wasn't much. He didn't bring, basically that it turned into round 13. He didn't bring any different questions to be asked from that first round. He didn't bring anything that Tyson didn't already know and think, hold on, I need to take a step back. I need to have a look and assess this situation. Or I need to think on the spot. I've not seen this, you know. So maybe that's what he means. I don't know. But I spoke to him the other day on, he FaceTimed me, had a chat with him, and it was good. I see the kids, good to speak to the kids and all that. Had a good chat.
Anything of any note that you can let us know about?
Just general chat, really. He seemed in a good. He was in a good mood. Yeah, like I said, it's good to see the kids as well, because obviously I lived there for a long time, so to see them all, and it's crazy how quickly kids grow in a short space of time. So
five kids in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we see his morning workouts every day on Instagram with Paris, which are quite entertaining actually, and I think it's funny when the kids get involved in it sometimes as well, when they're like running off and swearing at them. But yeah, it's quite entertaining, to be honest. Those Instagram lives. But he seemed in good spirits, and he's not kind of letting anything get him down at the minute. He's fine. No,
he's good. He's like you said, he's doing his training in the morning, training in the evening. He's keeping a routine, and that's the important thing for him.
So Dana White made some comments as well. I want to get your reaction to this, Benjamin. Speaking to TMZ Sports, I am a day or two away from securing a private island. I won't be able to get international fighters into the US, so I have a private island that I'm going to start flying them all in and doing fights from there. April the 18th, UFC is back up and running. What's your thoughts on that, Ben?
Well, obviously, the most important thing, firstly, is are they being tested?
I should assume so. I should assume in this current climate, anything that's been talked about in regards to that, everyone involved, not just the fighters, but anyone involved in the production, the fighters, everyone there would be tested. I'm assuming so.
Yeah, I'm not a coronavirus expert, but I'd imagine, if you're tested and that means that you're clean and you can get over there and everything's all okay, then I don't see why not. It'd be great for people sat at home to see some sports back up and running. So as long as it's safe and it's all okay, it'd be great. Would it not? What do you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, if all the boxes are kind of ticked, but I was going to ask you kind of about the boxing possibilities of this, because obviously Eddie Hearn has mentioned before that he's discussed about studio shows and possibly smaller shows coming up in the summer going behind closed doors. But do you think that's a possibility, that kind of some of the lesser shows, the non-pay-per-view shows, could end up starting off as closed door shows?
Yeah, obviously, I think that if you get, like you said, a non-pay-per-view show that can go on during this pandemic, I think as a promoter, as a TV, as a broadcaster, you get a lot more bang for your buck, In terms of a pay-per-view event, obviously the gate will generate a lot of money for a pay-per-view event. So with the TV thing, it might level itself out. You might not get what you'd normally get, so it'd probably be better to hold off. I don't know. But in terms of a small show like a York Hall show or something like that, like you were saying, it'd be great for fans at home as long as it can all be done safely. And for the broadcasters, like I say, and the promoters, I'm sure you'll get more bang for your buck.
I kind of open this out to some
training. Just thinking about it there, training will be difficult for that.
Sparring, yeah. The gym environment, absolutely. I mean, sparring more so, yeah, you're right. No one's kind of got a blueprint for this because we've never been in this situation before. So
no, exactly.
And I did open the floor out to some Twitter questions. Are you all right to answer a couple?
Yeah.
I'm just picking some out at random here. Okay, so question here from Alex Clements. Does Josh Taylor have any plans on moving up or becoming undisputed at light welter?
Like, which one does he want to do? What?
Does Josh Taylor have plans on moving up or becoming undisputed at light welter?
Well, from that is, I can't answer a question for Josh, but from my understanding, he wants to unify the division first of all, become undisputed, should I say, and then see what options lie from there. But his first intentions are to become undisputed.
Okay. John Ratcliffe says, do you model your look on Chris Jericho?
Well, Chris Jericho, funnily enough, is my dad's cousin's cousin.
You dick.
No, I don't.
For a little while, and I thought,
I don't base myself off of base my looks off Chris Jericho. But I wouldn't mind being in his shape. He's in good shape, isn't he?
Fair enough. Well, maybe Chris Jericho models himself on Ben Davison. How about that?
Maybe.
Right, we got Mikey from Analyze Boxing. Being at such a young age, have you or do you ever get the itch to turn pro yourself? Vidal Riley being an example of someone who coaches but is still a young prospect himself.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Do you want to expand on that a little bit? That was just a flat no.
No, Vidal is a professional boxer first and foremost, and I think he was mates with KSR or something, wasn't he? And helped out with some coaching stuff. But he's got things he wants to achieve as a professional boxer. It's a completely different situation. But Mikey, that Analyze Boxing is a good guy.
Okay, no problem. Somebody wants you to break down, Hassan Ashrafi wants you to break down Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. I think I'm going to know what you're going to say to this, but...
Yeah, I don't like to compare fighters from one era to another era. It's like saying, would the Lakers of today beat the Lakers of 30, 40 years ago?
Fair enough. And would they have?
Well, I had this discussion with an NBA player before, a former NBA player at a game, and I said, do you think the game has sort of moved on? The sport has moved on? And he said 100%. He said, I would not be able to do or play at the tempo as these guys do, Everything's moved on. As you were saying, if it was football, you couldn't compare.
No. The Busby era to the Ferguson team, for example.
It's a different.
Opponents are different. Everything leading up to it is different. Just everything is different. So it is a right fantasy-based question, but people like to delve into fantasy.
Well, if you look at it, would a sprinter of 40 years ago keep up with sprinter of today? No, they don't. Their times don't match. Things don't.
No, it's a valid point. That is a valid point.
I know that some people say, they've sort of been. When I've said this before, people have sort of come at me and sort of said, "Yeah, but watch this," and they sort of comparing eras, not in boxing, but in athletics and things like that. But there's no way to actually compare, saying, "Oh, the shoes are different," or this or that, or you can't really compare it other than what happens on race day. And on race day and world records, it simply shows that the speed that 100-meter races are racing at now, 30, 40 years ago, they wouldn't be able to basically things have moved on, developed, and I just feel that across sports. In my opinion, some people would disagree, and that's fine, but that's just my opinion. Don't get me wrong. When it comes to boxing, there's greats. Greats could have lived in any era.
You believe that?
Yeah, that's where it becomes a bit difficult, because people will say, okay, what about Sugar Ray Leonard? Could he beat Tom Jones today? Not Tom Jones, but just say an average fighter. Yes, of course. He's a great. The greats could have lived in any era, but when you take the medium, the average, I just think that the sport has moved on. Sport has moved on.
All right, we've got one more here. We've got Boxing Madness 1 says, ask Ben what he thinks of the current system of drug testing.
The current system in terms of the overall system, or what's going on during this pandemic?
Well, I'm not too sure, but let's kind of maybe adapt Boxing Mad's question. I'm sure he'd want to listen to this anyway. And yeah, let's actually talk about the situation regarding UKAD during this pandemic at the moment. What do you think about it?
Listen, the statement that was put out is obviously the sort of talking point. It only makes sense to me for the statement to be put out if there was some sort of legality to say, I don't know, let's just say UKAD have to have a certain amount of tests take place per week to fulfill their contract to whoever they're contracted to, yeah? For their funding. Are you following?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Now, with this pandemic, obviously they can't hit those numbers. I don't know if for a legality they have to, somewhere along the lines, have been advised to put this out. It just covers you in this area in terms of the legal side of things. That's the only way that would make sense to me for that statement to be put out, because anybody with common sense can see that testing is not really able to happen when you've got to keep 2 meters apart from people. Imagine what would happen if UKAD turned up at your door, tested you, and then you caught coronavirus, and you laid it, and you could lay it back to being from.
No, I think the main thing here was kind of putting it out for people to be aware of a much more kind of lenient period of drug testing while this is going on. But I will say that if you have intentions of doing it, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, for example, this is a great time to be doing that because we're not going to be as tested as much, then if that's your thought process, then at some point you're going to do it anyway. So
exactly. Listen, for people to say, oh, now UKAD have put that statement out, it's giving people the green light to go and do it. Well, listen, I'm not being funny, but as you said, it's very clear on the rules of social distancing, which means that they're not really able to anyway. So if you're looking to do it, you're going to be doing it anyway, whether that statement was put out or not.
Correct.
But like I say, the only way putting that statement out on terms of UKAD side makes sense to me is as I explained. So I don't know, on the overall scheme of things. Sorry. I don't really know. It's not my area, but let's just base it on the pandemic situation there, as we've done.
Well, I think it's a bit more of an in-depth question, to be honest with you, that you'd need to go into. But listen, you've given me an hour today, but we're only going to see half hour of it. But I think we've kind of relayed most of the topics that we've spoken previously. So I do appreciate it, Ben.
It's all right, mate.
Well, what we did in the last one, we'll do it again. If you could kind of possibly just chuck out 3 fights that people may have already seen, but you can go on time to rewatch if they're bored or if they're not bored.
So what did I say last time? I said Vitaly Klitschko, Lennox Lewis.
I said Crawford and Gamboa.
Did ya? That's an interesting one. That's a really interesting one.
I was interviewing old TC the other day, name drop. I was interviewing old Terence Crawford the other day on Skype, so that just made me think of that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, I'm sure. Have I not mentioned that fight to you?
Not in the last interview, and I've got the recording of it, so don't. I've just released the audio. Do one more then.
That was so. I've been trying to look if anybody can find a version of Billy Joe Saunders versus Andy Lee, because I know there's a version on YouTube, but it's terrible quality. I've been trying to get my hands on a good quality version of Billy Joe Saunders versus Andy Lee.
Nation, who showed
what? I've tried contacting them.
Everybody get on BoxNation's case. Ben wants the footage of Billy Joe Saunders' world title win over Andy Lee, which is, to be honest with you said this earlier when we were talking off camera, and you said to me about Billy Joe's best performance of his career. I named the obvious one in the mirror, but you're actually right in what you're saying, that the Andy Lee, considering kind of the opponent Andy Lee was as well, Billy Joe probably doesn't get the credit for that win as well, having dropped Andy Lee in that fight twice as well to win the world title. So you've probably got a good shout with that as his best performance, to be honest.
Yeah, Andy definitely was his best performance. You know, Lemieux was obviously a very, very good one-sided performance, but Andy was a lot better fighter than David Lemieux. Had a lot more of a varied game than David Lemieux, and probably hit just as hard as David Lemieux as well.
Trivia question for you. Who did Billy Joe Saunders beat at Royal Albert Hall?
Tony Hill.
Hooray! What round?
First round, about 32 seconds.
There we go. See? You weren't even training him then. All right, Ben, listen, thank you very much for your time. Fucking hell, this has run over 32 minutes now. Yeah, you got any closing words before we end?
How long is the other one we done?
31 minutes, I think.
Yeah. All right, mate. No closing words. Just thoughts go out to people who obviously there's some people in the boxing world that lost some family members. So my thoughts and prayers go out to them, and my best wishes to them and their families. And that's it, really. What I will say one more thing. This time, I know it can be a hard time for everybody, but it can be a very hard time for boxers, because a lot of boxers are in boxing because it basically, they need it. It keeps them sane. And you know, a lot of them will be struggling to be able to train and get in the gym and do what they sort of need. During this time, you know, it's been very well documented that many boxers struggling after their careers or during their careers or spells without boxing. So it'd be a very difficult time for the people who make our sport what it is. So it's definitely something to be wary of when you're giving it a large one over social media to these boxers and whatnot. It's just something to take note of, I think.
Sure, that's well received.
Are you doing a Kugan Cassius cooking show? Because it's sort of like heading that way.
Don't know, I might do.
I reckon you should do one.
So I bought a barbecue from Pound Stretcher.
Yeah. And
I only went into Pound Stretcher because it was next to Asda. Well, I did a bit of shopping the other day because Asda had the shortest queue, by the way.
Yeah.
If anyone lives in the Basildon area, want to know.
Well, I went Asda. I think I went Asda the other day. Best shortest queue as well.
Yeah. So, Pound Stretcher next door. Yeah, £25 barbecue. And I've been, having a bit of Ainsley Harriet in me. Yeah.
But like, I've seen the seasoning and all that. Where did you get all that from?
That's all in the cupboard, mate.
Yeah.
So, tonight we had rosemary and sea salt lamb chops off bed.
We had.
I mean, I had.
All right.
Sorry, I had.
And what sort of sides did you have with that?
Bit of rice and a bit of salad.
And the sort of how long did you have them? Rare, medium rare, well?
I'm like a bit of a medium-y, but I'm a bit of a medium person, to be honest with you. I could go either way with it, to be honest with you. With lamb chops especially, I'm a medium person. Yeah.
First restaurant you go to when quarantine finishes, I reckon you'll go to Smith's.
How did you know that, Benjamin? Smith's or a Spear in Benfleet. Yeah, one of those two will be visited once. Yeah, hopefully out of this situation.
And what restaurant needs a big shout out during this pandemic?
100% Sheesh for what they've done. Shout out to Dylan and Lady Rock and the team for handing out literally thousands and thousands of meals to the NHS. I'm not sure they're still doing it, but they were
still doing it.
Okay. Travelling up and down to hospitals and giving them free food and good food and all. So fair play to Sheesh.
Very good food. Very good food.
All right, Ben.
All right, mate. What do you think of Josh Taylor's new haircut?
Yeah, see that the other day. I'm contemplating doing it. Look. Oh.
Are you going to do it? Yeah.
I don't really want to, but what are you reading?
Just a message. I'm just seeing there. 1 second. Just going into the team group chat we've got here.
Yeah.
Because 2 weeks of holiday.
It looks well, did he?
Fucking hell. Hank. Right, Ben, thank you very much for your time again. And, we'll catch up soon, hopefully.
Catch up soon, mate. Catch up soon.
Nice one, bruv. Take it. Ben Davison, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV. God bless you, my son. God bless you.
Mate. See you, mate.